So in case you missed anything, contact page, email address, best way to contact us with any questions or issues. The help link to open a PDF user guide, a really good resource for searching instructions for how to use the tools. And again, a link to our homepage. And then we have our site divided into pages. So each of these links on the homepage is like a different tool within the site. And then we have our crash data search. That's a separate tool that we also offer LTAP webinars. I believe one was already held earlier this week. So if you have any questions about that, you're still always welcome to contact us through that same email address, and we can make sure we get you forwarded to the crash data GCAT experts. So usually I walk through the site, just starting with project search and going into each page. I do these webinars every few months, so I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. And if anyone has already attended, maybe by switching it up, that'll be a good refresher for you as well. Before I dive in, I should say what the purpose of our TIMS Transportation Information Mapping System is, and that is to bring all of the data that we manage throughout ODOT, all of these transportation assets and project information and reference information, bring it all together and make it publicly available into this one portal. So like our tagline says, we want to bring together better data and help you make better decisions. So we've been around for quite a while now, and we've been adding more and more data sets. We've just about outgrown ourselves. So in the next year or two, we'll hopefully be rolling out a few enhancements that keeps the site really user-friendly and can better organize all of these many data sets that we've added over the past few years. So if you want to get a reference of how many data sets we include in TIMS, we can start on the data glossary page. And the list of all of our data sets is here under limit search to data set. And then some behaviors that you're going to see throughout all the tools on the site. If you click to expand a drop-down list, you can also type to filter. So if we're searching for any kind of bridge data, we can just start typing and see what layers we have. If I choose one, it's going to update the bottom and give us some metadata. It's going to list all of the attributes and hopefully give us a meaningful description of those attributes. And we're going to have some links over to the side. And while this link is repeated for every field, it's going to be the same value. So the question mark link, if you hover over that, you'll see a brief description of the data set, inventory of bridges in the state, and you'll see the date of when it was last updated and how often we update it. If the middle link is active, it will link you to like the department, another website that represents who owns this data set. So here it will get us to ODOT's Office of Structural Engineering. So if you have any questions or need to find a contact information, it's always good to remember that you can see what this link is. Okay, so we have our results limited to just one data set, and then we can limit the fields that we see by searching in this top field. So say we're looking for a general appraisal. Let's see, if we just type in one word. And you can type in full words, let's see, just to get an idea of what's in there. Now, if we clear out our data set, and a backspace, and we can see any search word, and that will give us an idea. Say, let's do the general appraisal again. We'll get an idea of the data sets that will include that attribute. So while it might seem a little bit clunky, we're still trying to keep it somewhat organized so that you can search through all of the, and learn more about all the data sets that we have offered here. So I think a good page to visit after the glossary is the data download page. Here you can navigate through and find the data set that you're most interested in. Select it. You can select multiple or just one. You can select multiple throughout the categories, and then expand the Export Data button to choose your file format. And this will quickly download all of these data sets in your desired format. And each button, each data set will be in its own zipped file. And then if you've selected multiple, it will be zipped files inside of an overall zip file. And that's all automated on the back end. They're updated nightly. So if the bridge data set is on a daily update cycle, that download file is also updated every day. Okay, and one thing that I usually run out of time for, so let's go over it quickly, is our standard PDF maps page. And this page, we give you a few options to quickly generate a PDF map with a basic legend, and most of these map themes are based around project information. So if we want to see what's going on in our district for this construction season, let's look at 7. You have some options for choosing your base map and a size. And this will just take 1 second. And I want to point out the behavior of the application itself here while we wait. A lot of our tools function this way in TIMS. You will pick your settings and then click a generate button, click a button to make that product on the back end with those settings that you've chosen. And then when it's ready, another button will become active to say download or export. And then depending on your browser, I'm in Edge, and so it pops up here. I can view that PDF right in the browser. And you'll see that it's showing me all of the projects for this construction season in District 7. And it has an explanation of what each layer represents. So I invite you to play around with any of those, and if you have any questions on something that might be useful for your workflows, maybe speak up or ask some questions about it. Okay, now let's briefly go to the Create a Map page. This is the GIS in TIMS, Geographic Information Systems, our web map. And we want to spend the majority of our time today going through all these tools that we have available in the TIMS map page. But I wanted to just quickly look at it first. And actually, one of the most common errors that we get is the TIMS map is not updating. And I didn't reset my browser before I started today, so it's a perfect opportunity to show you what's likely to happen to you guys as well. So if I had my base map set to the imagery, that's of course a very large file, so if I'm zoomed all the way out to Ohio, it's going to take a long time to try to draw that layer. So if you ever come to TIMS and the map doesn't seem to be loading, you can switch your base map, and we'll step through all of these tools when we come back. But I wanted to give you a quick reference of our main map. This has all of our data sets that are included in the glossary and in the download page. But then we also have our map viewers page. These have the same function, the same tools, everything works the same as the main map, but they're customized for different offices around ODOT where they only want to see specific layers. So what's different is the layers and maybe the symbols that we offer. But again, they're all publicly available, so you're welcome to explore those if you're looking for something in particular. Okay, so before we get in to the meat and potatoes of the Create a Map, let's make sure we've explored the project search page. Of course, Department of Transportation, all of our work is managed through a project system called LRS, and we try to flatten out all of that project data in a way that can be easily explored and navigated in our TIMS site. And we've created the project search page to help you filter through that data set. And the purpose of this page is really towards getting you to one or two project locations. But it's good for searching around and getting an idea. I always like to read the blurb at the top to help you understand what projects make it from our LRS system into the TIMS application. So I'm just going to read it straight from the page. So this transportation project search page is for finding transportation projects from ODOT's project database. This search will include projects with 1, funding categories of LRS multi-lane major rehab, STIP major bridge, safety HSP, safety SRTS, local programs, and track. Hopefully some of that made sense to you. And 2, the second criteria, they are completed or current or future projects with committed funding, and that committed funding is important. I believe it has to have at least 50% committed funding. And the third criteria, they have to have a valid work location. We can't put it on the map if we don't know where it is. The information provided here are an overview of the project information and not a comprehensive view of our LRS project database. The project information available in TIMS is updated on a nightly basis, and a project PIDs with multiple work locations will result with multiple records on the map. So we can see at the bottom of the screen, if I switch to only viewing 5 records so that we can see this footer, we have over 70,000 project records entered. And of course, we identify those with the PID project ID. And you can see here that one PID can have multiple entries. And that is because each location, so Route 611, between these log points or mileposts, is one location of where work is being done, and then different route, different log points. And then this last example is actually perfect. So it comes through all of our database filters and it makes it to this page, but we don't have a location. So if I tried to select this and send it to the map, there wouldn't be anything to draw. So that's important to understand. If we don't have this location information and we map it by its route and log point, so that is the location information that's required. Okay, so an overview of how you can filter through these projects. Of course, you can pick your district, a county. You could type your PID in here, or you can scroll through this very long list. You can limit by the primary work category or by fiscal year. Let's pick the current year. And we'll see in 2021 in Clark County, we have 11 entries. Now you can sort anything here in the results table just by clicking the column header. So I can sort by the PID or by the route. And you can further filter the results table by using this broad search box. And I think for me, the most useful way to implement the search box is to search by the route numbers. Of course, you know, the numbers 7 and 1 could be beside each other anywhere within the log point fields or maybe the PID field, but knowing that we format our route values as 5 characters with leading zeros, we can use that to search for specific route. I probably should have picked a, okay, so let's do that, 41. There you go. So each step that we take on this project search page is further filtering down to find the projects that we're most interested in. So let's pick this first project in our results. And the link at the left of that record, View Details, will open, let's go ahead and open it, this project information page where it takes a lot more attributes than we see just in that results table and puts them in this report format to make it easy to view or print. So the attributes are categorized and grouped together. And I always like to note the project plans, links to project plans will open ODOT's digital paper from the Office of Contracts, where you can have direct access to the engineering plans. So that's one of the many ways that we link all of the data sources together from the TIMS site. So I'm going to click the back button. Usually if I am switching back and forth between pages, I try to right click and open in a new tab. But if you click the back button, it should remember your filters. It will just take a quick sec. It does not remember the first one, or the search box, sorry. So, okay, before we leave this page, we just want to cover these few. We can export from here. You can export that project, just that selected record, or if you select both records, you can get those in a spatial format or an Excel CSV file, or you can send them over to our map. Okay, I see one, but I'm not sure where the other entry went. So they will automatically populate in the results pane at the bottom of the map window as well. And from here, we'll have some links to Zoom. And you'll see that we have a lot more fields in the results table on the map page. And we're actually going to get every attribute that exists. So all the attributes that we saw on the project information page, now in this tabular format. Okay, one more way of navigating projects is our search by PID. So if we know the exact project that we're looking for, we will always have the shortcut on the title bar at the top of the page. So you can type in the PID and just click enter. And it will automatically take you to the search page filtered to that PID. So once this loads, I want to make sure I point out the differences in the types of geometry. A limitation maybe of GIS is how it has to draw a geometry. It will have a separate file for a point on a map than a line on the map. So of course our projects can represent one point along the roadway, like a sign or a sign support, or it can represent a segment of the roadway like a pavement project. And I believe this example, this is bridge preservation, but so bridges are usually represented as just one point location for that bridge. And its location will have the route and a begin log point, but no end log point. So when you see an CTL end value of 0, you know that's going to come through to the map as a point feature. So if we did have a value there, we would know that it would come through as a line feature. So let me see if it's worth, or if I'm just going to confuse things more if I try to search around this page to find an example of a line feature. We did just see the example that I sent over to the map page was a line feature. And as we go through the tools in the map page, I think we'll be able to cover that. And if anyone has any questions or is confused, please just drop something in the chat. Okay. So now we're going to stay here within this create a map page and use our time, the rest of our time, to hopefully get through all of these tools. And I'll start with an overview of what we have on this page. Of course, we're looking at our map. We have our basic buttons to zoom in or out, go back to our home extent. Within the map window in the top right, we have 3 tools, one for set base map, we saw that earlier. So above the line, these are third-party base maps that just have some different looks. So you can choose those for your preference. And I'm going to zoom in a bit. Below the line, of course, we have ODOT has a custom base map. It looks very similar to the third-party base map, but it allows us to make any corrections that we need for misspellings or labels. And then we also offer the Ohio Statewide Imaging Program. The aerial photography, I believe the state is flown on a 2-year cycle, and that's why you see OSIP 1, OSIP 2. I usually just click to best available, where it chooses which image was of higher quality. I think I was still zoomed out too far. There we go. So we can leave that on for a little while. Our second button, print map, this will just print the map window. You're not going to get your legend or title, but if you need a quick reference and you've zoomed in and you have your layers turned on that you need for reference, then you can just print that window. The third tool, share map with your friends. This will generate a short URL. Well, it used to generate a short URL, but now you can just copy the full URL and send it in an email or share it however you would like, and they can just paste. And this URL will remember the extent that you were zoomed to, as well as the layers that you had turned on. Of course, I hadn't turned any on yet. And the base map that you had selected. So when I used that tool, it updated my tools pane over on the left-hand side. If we want to get back to viewing all of our layers, it's that first button, set visible layers. And now let's step through the other buttons. We can find location. I like to call these the zoom tools. So just some ways of zooming to an area on the map. You can enter an address or intersection. It defaults, to give you an example, it defaults to ODOT headquarters in Columbus. And I think I should take it off of that aerial photograph so it's not just spinning while we're here today. You can zoom to a coordinate. If you have that value, hopefully you have it somewhere where you can copy and paste. It takes us to the center of Columbus, just to give you an example. And you can switch between formats, decimal degrees, or degrees, minutes, seconds. Everything within TIMS is published in the Web Mercator, WGS 84 Web Mercator. But you can provide those coordinates in either format. And then it's really good to note that this tool can also be used to report a coordinate. So you can activate it by clicking this button and then click anywhere in the map, and it will draw the flag and provide the coordinates. And again, you can switch back and forth between your format. The Find Log Point tool, we've talked about our route and our log point. That's how we track the locations of many of the assets along the roadways. And the let's start with picking on Clark County today. The basis of that is that we give all of our roadways a unique ID, an NLF ID, and these drop-down lists are giving us a way to pick, a realistic way to pick that NLF ID value. So in Clark County, Interstate 70, the valid log points are 0 to 29. I'm just going to pick something and zoom to that area. But of course, we can use this tool to also report a log point. And I think that a lot of people use this if they need to provide a log point value for another report or another purpose. Just like with the XY tool, you click the button to activate, and then you'll have your crosshairs icon. Click in the map anywhere on the roadway. Even though I'm just clicking on the base map, which is basically an image, it knows the underlying geometry of our linear system. So, excuse me. So we drop the flag. We see our information loaded over here, and it also created a record in our results table. Okay, our final zoom tool, find area. This is to zoom to a polygon area, some basic reference areas, county, metropolitan planning organization, a district boundary, or an urban area. So you can see those boundaries. So these zoom tools, find location tools, they'll center the map on your area of interest. And from there, it usually makes more sense to be zoomed in before you start turning on all of your assets or all of your layers. So, oh yeah, I want to just briefly explain what's happening with the results layers. Each time we do a search within the map, it draws a flag, or we've selected something within a layer and it populates in our results table. It's making a temporary layer on the back end, and it's going to show here. It's going to create this category, and from here we can turn them on and off. These will remain within your browser session. So if you close down your browser and then reopen, those will no longer be there. But you do have some tools. You can reload those results by picking Show Attribute. You can switch back between them. Zoom to the layer if you've navigated away. You can remove the layer, but I've found that when I do this, it will refresh until I close down that browser session. It will reappear. It will refresh and show there again. Okay, so many layers. I can't really talk about all of them, but I want to briefly give you an understanding of what's available. So let's start from the bottom. Again, we have under the safety category, we have some pared down crash data. You'll want the GCAP tool if you're really needing to dive into the crash data, but we have just some limited attributes, and it's filtered to the previous 3 years. Click any button to turn it on, and then if I want to see a symbol, I switch to my Legend tab. So of course I clicked the button, but nothing drew in the map, and that it will be the case with many of our larger data sets because there are just too many to draw when you're zoomed out. So you'll zoom in further, and then it will start to show. Once you have a layer turned on, you can use our third tool in the toolbar, the Identify Features. You just click that to activate it. And then again, I have my crosshairs icon in the map. I just click anywhere in the map, it will draw a selection box. It doesn't like me today. Okay. I'm just going to refresh instead of trying to troubleshoot and wasting our time doing that. And we'll try that tool again when we get to the next data set that we try. Okay, so our next category, roadway information. We have our base, this LRS layer. This is our linear referencing system, and that is those NLFID and log points. That's the underlying layer that feeds all of that. Our road inventory layer will classify these routes. Again, we can look at our legend into a route type, interstate, US, state, county, township. Let's try our identify features. Again, there we go. So it's going to pull up all the attributes that we have for that layer. Hopefully it's not making you dizzy when I scroll down like that. And a lot of times your selection box will cover more than one record. And when that's the case, you'll have that indication here, one of two features, and I can toggle between them. So it has selected the two records of 70, and you'll see the value of the NLFID value update between ending in a C for cardinal, which means it's traveling in the direction of from southwest to northeast, and then our non-cardinal value going the opposite direction. So it's good to understand what's happening with those values. Back to our set visible layers. Let's take a look at our traffic count data. And of course, those are going to draw along the roadway as well. I want to show you when you have multiple layers turned on and you use your identify tool, you can not only toggle through the records of one layer, but you can switch between those layers. Okay. Yeah, I guess we should have taken a look at that traffic layer. So like many of our data sets in the attribute table or the identify view, which is the way of viewing those attributes, but just in a list instead of across in the tabular form. Oftentimes there are links to other systems. So for our traffic reports, you can get a link directly to the MS2. I will remember to do a new tab this time. So you can get even more information about those traffic counts in that section of roadway. Okay. A lot of the layers under the roadway inventory are based on this road inventory layer, but they're filtered out for what might be useful. So here we're limiting to just the NHS designated roadways, the federal aid eligible. And again, you can look for any of these layers in the glossary to get a description. Let's quickly take a look at our straight line diagrams. These are just to provide, this layer is just to provide these links to these straight line diagrams. So it's a really quick way to get this report if that's something you need for your regular work. Okay. Let's expand, and we can expand and resize this pane just by clicking and dragging. And we can hide it. We can also hide the results table at the bottom by clicking these arrows. All right, quick overview of our projects data category, all project points, all project lines. So this is everything that comes up in that project information page that has a valid location. And as I mentioned before, it can come through as a point, as a single point location, or as a section along the roadway. And then the layers below that are just filtering that all projects data set. So we can limit it to just the next 4 fiscal years or previous, or our district work plan. And the current projects, this actually looks at today's date and the dates within the project attributes to see if it's something that's ongoing right now. So that's a really useful reference. And then our project history layer. Okay, our environmental grouping, lots of stuff here. I'm not going to spend much time here, but lots of reference information that can be really useful, especially any maintenance restrictions for sections of the roadway, any restriction due to environmental concerns. Our boundaries, our reference polygons, you'll see the same boundaries that we had in our zoom to area tool plus a few more. So you can turn on your districts, township boundaries. I'm in the middle of Columbus, so of course you're not going to see that. Columbus, and you can see the smaller unincorporated areas, political boundaries, House, District, and Senate, some census, urban area boundaries. They can be different between the cities and villages layer. Okay, and then assets. This is a collection of all of the assets that we catalog, maintain, inventory along our roadways, and this grows. Every day we're adding more layers here or enhancing the data that we already have published here. A few references, something that doesn't change, our record of ODOT facilities. So usually if I'm going to demo some of these other tools, I'll use a simpler database like our ODOT facilities. So let's go ahead and do that since I have this turned on. We've looked at visible layers, find locations, how to use the identify tool. We have a few tools in this gear button that I'm going to skip over for just a minute so that we can take a look at this filter data button. So let's start with this bottom option, filter by graphic. And basically, we're selecting individual features of whatever layer that we have turned on. So if I had multiple layers turned on, I could pick the one I want there. And then we have a few ways. What we want to do is draw a graphic on the map, and then any of our features that are within that graphic that we draw will be selected and they'll populate our results table. So I usually just draw a point anywhere in the map, and then I can add a buffer distance to increase that circle. And now when I click search, it will zoom to the features that it's selected within there, and it will populate my results window. And if you remember that I mentioned earlier, we'll know that back on our Set Visible Layers pane, we will have a new result layer. Okay, our second option for selecting, let's see if I can zoom out. Filter by geography. So this is going to be based on those Zoom to area, the same areas that we had available in our Zoom to tool. So we can choose a district, and basically it's going to use the boundary of that district. When we click search, it's going to return all of the ODOT features within that boundary. And it has updated my results table. So of course I will have a new layer here in the layers pane. And if you remember, I can switch back and forth between those. Also, from the results table itself, I can export these features in those same format options. And I have that same search tool. If I want to navigate through here, I can search any term. So you'll see it must have Mary somewhere else in one of the other attributes, but it's that generic search term that will search through all of the attributes. Okay. Our third option for filtering data, filter by attributes. This tool will let us build a simple query based on the values in this attribute table. So let's see if I pick city, is, and it will automatically fill in this drop-down list for my valid. I'm picking on Clark County still, so let's choose Springfield. And we had one ODOT facility in Springfield. I could do more complicated queries by clicking Add Filter and narrow that down even more. If anyone is interested in learning more about the filter tools and how to best get through your data, some shortcuts for making these queries or some tips, you're always welcome to reach out to that TIMS support, and it'll probably be me. I'll reply back and we can work through any questions that you would have. So I won't spend any more time on that today. Our last option on the tools toolbar, add data to map. So you can actually bring in your own shapefile or a KMZ or a spreadsheet that has NLF ID and log point or coordinates or addresses. You can bring it in to reference against the data that we have in TIMS. And I will do one example, geocode addresses. And let me get to, there we go. I always keep some TIMS samples, so I picked my file and now I'm going to click upload, and it's going to try to fill these in. So if there's a column called address, it knew to fill that in right away. It wasn't quite sure about city, so I can manually pick that city name and zip code, and then I'll click the geocode button and it'll do its thing. Now if we want to see what it brought in, I need to turn off my other layers. And we'll see it's brought it in. I believe these are facilities, the district headquarter facilities, the addresses for all those. So we'll bring it in, it will create a results layer, it will populate your results table, and then you could even use TIMS to export that out in a different format if you wanted. We don't have any control over the symbols when we create these results layers. It's just picking those at random. Okay, so it looks like we have about 10 minutes left. So I won't go through all of these examples. It's just really good to know that you can bring in your own data into TIMS. So of course, if you have any questions, you can always contact us later. And we want to quickly make sure we show some of the options under this gear, the tools, the double tools menu. I am starting from the bottom with everything today. So our map channel link will link you to an external site. So I can click anywhere in the roadway. It's going to pick that XY coordinate of wherever I clicked. And this website has changed a lot since we developed it within TIMS. So it's a little clunky that it brings you to this page, but just click View Map and then you'll get the full experience. And what this page does is combine a lot of different views. So we can see Street View. Of course, I clicked in the middle of a field. So if I move my pin over, and all three of these windows are controlled together. So if I'm driving through Street View, it's updating the other two views. So this can be a really useful site for checking something out without having to go into the field. So it's good to remember we have that. And our ODOT Pathweb. So our Pathweb program drives along the roads and collects photographs, as well as it scans the pavement so that we can rate the pavement conditions. So, okay, like a lot of tools within TIMS, I clicked it. It looks like maybe nothing happened, but I know it's activated when over on my map, I get the crosshairs icon. So for this tool, you really do want to click over a roadway. So if you need to zoom in, and it will load our Pathweb system and give you, they've recently added, you can get even more information about the section of roadway that you're exploring. So the date of when this was collected, and then the traffic, PCR, some different stats. And over here, we're seeing the scanned image of the roadway as it was collected. So I think we can just click the play forward. I'm not sure how to make it go a little slower, but we can see all of that update together. Okay, and these last three tools, Bookmark, will save your own location. So say you do a lot with the village of Bluffton, and you just want to be able to quickly zoom there all the time. So if I went back to my full extent, I was looking at my layers, I could reopen those bookmarks, and that would be saved there. So this is, if I'm saying it correctly, I believe it makes a cookie in your browser. So until it will remain in your browser until you cleared out all of your saved browser settings. Okay, our draw tool. If you need to draw just a basic graphic before you do a basic print, you can use this tool and maybe add a quick note. Not really sure how much that is still used, but it can be useful. And then the measure tool, I like this a lot. It gives you a few different ways of collecting measurements from the map. So you can draw a polygon. So I activate the tool, I click to start drawing, double click to finish, and it will give me that area in square miles and the perimeter measure. And I can leave that shape there and change my units, and that will automatically refresh. Okay, I can draw a line to get a measure. Double click, and again, I can switch between. And also, if you do your work in state plane coordinates, we have the tool added here. A lot of people don't know it's not under the find lat long, it's here under the measure tools. So you can pick your state plane north or south. Again, it will give you a tip on what it wants. So just click for a point and you can get your eastings and northings to copy and paste. Okay, well, I have just rambled on for 56 minutes. I don't think that I've seen any questions.
No, there are no questions in the questions pod.
I know what's up. Everyone's just out there on mute, kicking back with a coffee. Just waiting for this joyous week to be over, right? Get to the weekend. But now's your opportunity. If you had a question that you were thinking you might want to ask, please do. If not, I hope that you were able to follow along today. I hope that you learned something new or got some ideas on how you can use TIMS in your everyday workflows. I'll make sure I go back to that contact page. If you think of any questions later, you're welcome to reach out.
We have 2 that came in, Katie.
Nice. Okay, let me pop this out. Is there a way to control the opacity of layers? We can set that before we publish the layers, but once it's in TIMS, you're pretty much limited to turning it on and off. You're welcome to make a request as we kind of redevelop and upgrade some of the data sets and republish them with new symbols. We do try to add in maybe some transparencies where it might be useful. Okay, the second question, can you demonstrate road inventory for a municipality by roadway classification? Okay, so let's go into our map. And we want to search for roads within a municipality by their classification. I'm not sure if I'm going to translate that correctly, but well, the first thing that we could do is turn on our overall road inventory. Maybe functional class is useful, so we could turn that layer on and then use our zoom tools to go to our municipality. Guess what? I'm still picking on Clark County. And from there, we could export this out, or we could, if we wanted to just dive into this data more just within this urban area, then of course we could use our filter tools, and we could filter by area to clip it to that extent. Or if we had our full road inventory layer, we could filter by that functional class state. Hopefully that's helpful. Drop another chat in if I was totally off target there. Does ODOT have plans to add as-builts to their inventory, such as the location of a light pole or guardrail? Oh, okay. So yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time in our various assets. It got away from me today. So let's look at what we have for our highway lighting inventory. And we also have our guardrails. I'm not sure about guardrails, but we have safety barriers. It's probably different. Let's see. Okay, so these assets are managed with our collector system, and they use the iPads now out in the field to inspect this data. It goes through a lot of data processing, and then before it gets published into TIMS, we flatten that data out. So here we're looking at safety barrier. We include our standard attributes, and then towards the bottom there will be, well, these are the attributes of the roadway that it's attributed to. It looks like we don't have a whole lot of attributes for our safety barriers. But if we switch to highway lighting, maybe that's something that's inspected on a regular basis. So in TIMS, we would pull in the most recent inspection for that inventory record. And you can see some of the database keys to get an idea of what had happened in the collector system and then which record was carried through. Additionally, if when the inspection is happening in the field and they attach pictures, we will create a link directly here so that you can view those pictures through TIMS. So some of the layers that are part of that collector system, the data, the attributes and the tables will be structured the same for all of them, with the same type of link if there's an attachment. That will include our ITS assets and sign supports and the signs, our underdrain outlets. Let's see, borehole and geotech project limits are managed through another
Katie,
program.
are you saying something? Because I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't? Did it cut off? Oh no, you can't hear me?
Oh, they can hear you. It just seems to be mine. Okay,
Oh,
continue.
okay, good.
Sorry.
Yeah, I see we've gone a little past, so actually that's a good reminder. If you have any more questions about navigating these collector assets, again, you're welcome to reach out. I see one more question. Oh, I see several more questions. So just very quickly, I'll make sure, I want to respect your time, so I'll make sure we finish at 3:05. Does ODOT have, okay, I wanted to ask if the camera video logs collected by DOT are available for resources or consultants to use. Um, Everything in TIMS is publicly available. So if you see it here, it's already been vetted to be available to the public. So you are welcome to use that. And the last question, looking for a good hydrology layer for Ohio with stream names. All right, so I know that we'll have a few options for that under our environmental. And I believe the name is a little tricky. It's like an acronym. These are soil layers. Our mussel streams, we have to track those because the mussels are an endangered species. Hopefully I said the right term there. So it will have a lot of information. Oh, HUC regions, hydraulic unit codes. So I'm not seeing it here in our main Create a Map. You might want to check out our environmental map viewer. There should be a lot more layers available there. So under environmental data sets, you can expand that and look for these HUC boundaries. I'm not an expert in that type of data, but you are still welcome to send any specific questions to the TIMS support email, and we can link you up with the correct people that can answer those types of questions. Okay, I think I'll end it there, and we'll see if Paula can wrap it up.
Yep, that's it. That's all I have for you guys. As soon as the recording is processed, I will make sure that I send a follow-up email out to everyone. Thank you so much for your time today. Have a great day. Thanks. Good job, Katie.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.